the near future, climate change, cutting down trees, and a nuclear war have done so much damage to Earth that most towns are slowly falling apart. A dangerous lack of oxygen is added to a lack of food and electricity. Australia will have one of the few towns surviving by 2067. It has been able to stay in thanks to synthetic oxygen. The air, on the other hand, is dirty and makes people sick with a disease called sickness. Ethan White and his best friend Jude work as utility workers to keep the neutral reactor stable and get power back on in the city. Their boss checks to see if everyone is still healthy at the end of the workday. Someone says they can't come in the next day, so Ethan works that shift to get extra oxygen points. The boss still fires the unfortunate guy, though. Ethan sees a protester on his way home talking about how air shouldn't be a luxury and how they should give things up for the next generation. People walking by don't pay attention to him, but the fired worker confronts Ethan. He needs work badly because his children are sick. There is then a fight, which is cut short when the protester suddenly starts to burn. When Ethan gets home, he sees on the news that the protester did that to remember the last plant that was still alive. There are also more and more sickness-related deaths in the report, and Cronicorp, the business that makes oxygen, says it will find a solution. However, people keep rebelling because they think humans will soon die out. The reporter then talks about the dead lead scientist for the Chronocops, who is Ethan's father and is named Richard. This makes him turn off the TV. Xanthi, Ethan's wife, comes in at that moment, and he gives her a new breathing mask. While they're having fun, Xanthi suddenly throws up blood because she's sick, but tells Ethan she's okay. After a while, Ethan is called to the offices of Chronocops, and Jude goes with him. Regina, the chief technology officer of the company, tells them that Ethan can help them save the world, and then takes them to the lab. It turns out that they are working on the Chronicle, a time machine that Richard came up with 20 years ago. For a few minutes, they tested it by sending a clock. They also sent radio waves and got a response from 400 years in the future that said, "Send Ethan White." Regina thinks that the people from 400 years in the future will find a fix for the sickness and will only give it to Ethan. But the team doesn't know how to get Ethan back, so he needs to find the people who sent the message. Since Regina asked him to, Ethan and Jude went to a bar after the meeting to think about it. But Jude tells Ethan that if he stays with Xanthi, she will die, while if he leaves, she might be saved for years to come. When Jude brings up Richard, Ethan tells him that Richard's father fled, leaving his 8-year-old son with only an automatic erase note and a strange device on his wrist. Because Ethan thinks Richard would have saved his mother's life by staying, he won't leave Xanthi. But Jude thinks that Ethan should save Xanthi so that he doesn't end up like Richard. Ethan thinks about his 8th birthday after Jude leaves. He had to wait all day for his dad, but Richard showed up late. His gift was a strange box. He put little Ethan's hand inside the box and told him that one day he would have to make a big decision. Suddenly, an electric bracelet wrapped around his wrist and cut it. The boy was in a lot of pain, and Richard told him that the band wouldn't come off. He then left the house, even though his wife begged him not to. Ethan also can't help but think about how his mother died, so he chooses to tell Xanthi about Chronicorp's plan at home. Xanthi tells him not to use her as a reason not to save everyone and to have faith. He doesn't want to leave her. She also talks about the dead kids in her class and says she's scared. In the evening, Ethan goes to the roof to look at the city. As he does so, he remembers the day his mother died on the streets and desperately tries to take off the band. Jude found him that day and gave him his breathing mask. Right now, Ethan yells as he makes his choice. After promising to come back, Ethan leaves Xanthi a metallic flower the next morning, but he doesn't know that she's awake and crying. He makes a deal with Regina that he won't go to the Chelsea cops office until Xanthi gets the first dose of the fix. Regina agrees, and the two of them go to the lab right away, where scientists show Ethan how to use the special suit and a tiny computer they call Archie. Jude also shows up to show his support and say he will keep an eye on Xanther. As soon as Ethan is ready, he steps into the machine. Electricity wraps around his body until the machine fires a blast of energy that sends him into the future. There is a hole in the sky, and Ethan falls very quickly. He lands in the middle of a jungle and passes out right away. When Ethan wakes up, he sees that his suit is on fire and takes it off right away, getting away from it just in time. Then, Ethan's body needs some time to get used to the fresh air and sunshine, which have helped plants grow back all over the area. Ethan uses Archie to find out where he is after taking some time to enjoy nature, but Archie can't connect to any satellites. He finally drops a magnet into the ground, which lets Archie perceive buildings nearby. She then leads Archie to the closest building. When Ethan walks in, He is shocked to see a skeleton with a hole in its head. But what really shocks him is seeing the skeleton wearing his name on it. A rusty Archie is under the leaves, and Richard's bracelet, but this one has a green light, is on the skeleton's wrist. He feels scared because this means he's going to die on this journey. When he calms down, he tries to open the building's doors but fails, so he asks the rusty Archie to play the last recording. The machine plays a voice that sounds distorted, saying that it's better this way because no one is suffering. Then two voices fight and there is a gunshot. That's when the battery dies and the rusty Archie turns off. Then he sees a wire wrapped around the rusty Archie. Ethan takes a wire from his suit and wraps it around his own Archie, which finally lets her pick up a beacon signal. After following the signal through the bush, Ethan finds 2 oxygen tanks but no one else. In the late evening, Archie helps Ethan start a fire, but it takes a while. He also finds some berries that Archie can't recognize. He eats one but throws it away because it tastes awful. After that, Ethan asks Archie to use the constellations to prove that it is 2474. This makes Archie remember how he and Richard used to look at the stars together. But the memory stops all of a sudden when Richard starts to feel sick, throws up, and has hallucinations while a storm rolls through the area. While Ethan is having worse hallucinations, he sees a ball of light crash near his camp, and a man running toward him to stab him in the chest. Soon after Ethan passes out, he wakes up to find that the strange man was Jude, who gave him medicine to treat the poison he got from the berry. Jude tells them in the morning that Chronicorp was keeping an eye on Ethan's vital signs, and saw that he was dying, so they used the power left on the Chronicle to send Jude for help. Although Ethan shows Jude the skeleton, Jude doesn't believe that it is really Ethan. After that, they use Archie to keep following the signal until they find another building that scans Ethan's eye and opens the door right away. Inside is very dark, but there is a screen that glows with Ethan's name on it. His wrist bracelet goes off when he hits enter, drawing blood to test his DNA. Thinking they are being attacked, Jude says he brought a gun with him. The bracelet's light suddenly turns green, and the computer turns on the lights to show that Ethan is who he says he is. The two people are shocked to find themselves in Chronicorp's lab. The computer tells them that the link will open in 4 hours. Even though Jude is happy, Ethan is scared because his band is green, like the skeletons. Next, Ethan looks through the computer logs and finds a hologram recording that Richard made while he was working for Chronicorp. Richard said that they buried a tracking station that would send information from the future when the air got clean enough to breathe. The team was ready for a response from 2474 in the next entry, but all they got was the message, "Send Ethan White." Regina asked if they could send it right away, but the report said there was a problem with the power in 2474. The lab system shuts down all of a sudden, and Ethan's computer tells him that there is a problem with the nuclear core power. When Ethan has Archie do an analysis, they find that the power feed is broken, which means they can't go back to 2067. It also tells them that there will be a nuclear blast if they don't fix the problem before the timer runs out. Jude wants to find tools right away, but Ethan can't get past what they've learned. The message from Chronicorp about the power outage came in a long time before they called him. The message was set from here, which means they fixed the problem and found a cure. In response to his question about why Chronicorp didn't tell them about the power outage and sent Jude instead of a medic, Jude says that he was the only one who offered. Jude then demands that they start fixing things, but Ethan wants to look at the situation first, which almost makes Jude angry. Jude tells Ethan to slow down and see how serious the situation is. Because of this, Ethan agrees to fix the access tunnel as long as they search for the person who sent the message afterward. The two people go through the bush and arrive at the city, but it is in ruins and full of plants. They find a lot of skeletons as they look around, and Ethan realizes that no one lived in the year he came from. The Earth only waited for people to die before it healed itself. Concerned, they visit Xanthi's school and discover the dead bodies of the students, indicating that they passed away in the classroom. Ethan was sure they would fail the task if no one was around to move the bodies. Then he finds Xanthi's body, which has the metal flower in her hand. Ethan thinks about the night Richard asked them to meet somewhere, but someone followed them and killed his mother and stole Ethan's breathing mask. He is very sad. Jude found Ethan and saved him, but Richard never showed up. Ethan has a panic attack because of the memory, but Jude helps him calm down. Ethan sobs because he feels bad about leaving Xanthi by herself. He still believes that they can't make things better, but Jude tells them they're better off because no one is suffering anymore. This surprises Ethan because that's what the rusted Archie told him. To be sure, Ethan plays the tape again and sees that Jude shoots him at the end of the argument. At that time, Jude pulls out his gun. Ethan asks him why he has it when there's no reason to fight. They start arguing until Archie tells them there are only 2 hours left until the nuclear bomb goes off. When Jude drags Ethan to the caves, they see that the nuclear core is damaged and need to change the way the power goes. Right away, when they try to do that, they fail, and the computer tries to lock the door for safety. Jude manages to stop it with an iron bar, but when Ethan hears the computer say that the room needs depressurization, he removes the bar, leaving Jude outside to save him. Then Ethan uses the oxygen purge, which brings back the power but makes him pass out. A agitated Jude breaks the glass, letting oxygen back inside to keep Ethan alive. When they get back to the lab, they find out that they only have 37 minutes left before the portal opens. Suddenly, Ethan opens a door and finds it leads to his skeleton, which makes him realize that he can't change destiny. While Ethan switches the batteries of the two Archies, he accuses Jude of trying to shoot him. Then he makes the rusty Archie play the final thing that the other Ethan saw. And the tape shows Jude threatening Ethan with a weapon and asking him to fight back. Jude claims he doesn't plan to shoot Ethan, and an argument follows, with Jude suggesting that they stay there, but Ethan rejects to leave everyone to die. Next, Ethan forces a different door open to find the utility room, but there are no masks. Jude says they can't save all people, but Ethan pushes him away and goes to the computer to play the log he recorded on his 8th birthday. Richard says he was wrong, but Jude cuts the power, cutting off the message. While Jude is still in the utility room, Ethan locks him up and turns on the power again to finish watching the message. Richard told his son that he did everything for him and wanted to tell him that. He called home and asked Ethan to meet him by taking a walk with his mother. Regina and Jude came into the lab and surrounded him before he could leave. Regina actually wanted to use the Chronicle to escape to the future with a small group of important people and stop looking for a cure, saying that people were the real virus. Richard wouldn't help and admitted that he set up the system so that only Ethan could use it in the future. This made Regina very angry, so she pulled out a gun and asked one of the scientists if they could send at least one person to fix the power problem. Once the doctor said it was possible, Regina killed Richard. Jude then gets away and tries to stop the recording, but it doesn't work. This is when the rest of the truth comes out. Regina told Jude to take care of Ethan and sent a group to kill Ethan's mother. Jude is called out for using Ethan all these years, and Ethan gets angry and jumps on Jude. They then argue again about what to do next. Because Ethan is trying to stop the Chronicle by pulling wires, Jude attacks him and pushes him against the wall while pleading with him to fight. Since Ethan says no, Jude pulls out his gun and points it at Ethan's head. Ethan doesn't fight back because he trusts his brother, Yudi. Jude feels guilty when he sees Ethan in so much pain because it makes him remember the night they met. He tells Ethan he's sorry, and then deletes himself. In the present, Regina is getting the elite group ready to leave. When they get to the future, she tells a guard to kill Ethan. Moving on to Ethan, he has a meltdown and reaches out to grab Jude's hand. He only stops when the computer responds to the message sent by Regina's team. These events finally help him understand that he is the one doing everything in the lab, so he writes the "Send Ethan White" message with a plan. In the present, Regina waits for the timer to run out, but the Chronicle shuts down instead of opening a link. They find a gift from Ethan inside the machine. It has some plants, a can, and a video of Richard's death. Ethan gets rid of the Chronicle in the future so that no one can use it again. Soon, the news will talk about Regina's arrest and how scientists are working with plants to help the environment grow again. Someone from Chronicop brings the can to Xanthi because it's marked with her name. When she opens it and sees a real flower, she starts to cry. Ethan buries Jude's body by the river in the future and leaves the metal flower on the grave. Suddenly, he sees a butterfly nearby. Ethan remembers that his father taught him that everything in the world is linked through time, and he runs back to the facility only to find that his skeleton is gone. Ethan is excited about the possible changes, so he runs through the forest to get back to the city. This time, he finds that people have survived and built buildings that fit in safely with nature. Subscribe. For more videos like this, turn on the notification and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.